What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another season of the Panthers Nation podcast. You don't get a full view of it right now. We're going to give you a little bit of a look later. But we're sitting inside the brand new location of Locker Room Charlotte here off of, is it North Raleigh Street? Raleigh Street?
I think it's North Raleigh Street.
Hey, you even over there? He ain't listening. Is he in the building?
I don't know.
Okay, shit. North Raleigh Street?
Yeah, North Raleigh Street.
Over here off of North Raleigh Street, they got it's what, twice the size, I'd say, Shanties?
Yeah, it's you look put this. If you've been to the old place, this place is a lot more room. I can't necessarily say if it's 2 times, 3 times bigger than the last place, but trust and believe, it's a lot more room. It's a lot more stuff. I mean, but the gear's all the same. You see how we.
Well, they got even more of it now.
You feel me?
We got the full Panthers wall behind us. We got Shaquille O'Neal, of course. They got TVs up in here. They got a Hornets section. Like, they've got so much over here. So y'all have to. If you didn't get the chance to come out to the last location, I don't know what you were doing. So make sure you come out to this one. All right, so let's get started. Talk about the draft. Let's get roll off the first couple thoughts.
Love what we did early. I'm not going to even sit here in front like I know what we did late because I'm like, it is what it is. Day 2 and 3, names get a little bit scarce. I'm like, I don't know about some of these guys. I did, from what I did look at over the weekend, I like some of what we did. I don't love necessarily any of it because to this point, until we see actual ball played, I really have no real feeling. But I like Xavier Legette and Jonathan Brooks. That's what I can say off the rip.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, we talked about the second pick, that 33-39, how big that was going to be. I don't think any of us could have anticipated not picking an actual pick that was ours until day 3. Like, we did not pick a pick that we earned off of rights until the 4th round, which is crazy. Every other one we had traded up for Trevin Wallace, for Jonathan Brooks, and for Xavier Legette. So for me, and we can rattle this off, for Xavier Legette, it was understood why they did it. And it was honestly your boy JB, Brandon Beane, helping us out because the Bills were going to take Xavier Worthy or Xavier Legette. It was going to be one of them off the top. They knew at 32 they were going to draft one of them, or it was going to be, whatever receiver was left at that time. So we jump up, they get Keon Coleman to start off the 2nd round. So I think that's exactly why they knew why they had to jump up there, and you gave nothing away for it.
Yeah. Well, they needed the leverage. I mean, they needed another pick, I think, too. I think for me, I told you guys in the chat, overall for me, the draft was a B. It would have been an A- for me because I think we addressed a lot of what we had talked about at the end of the year. I would have liked to see us have gone after an offensive lineman. I would have liked to have seen Frazier, but I'm not upset with Jonathan Brooks. I'm more excited about Sanders. The more I read about Sanders, looking forward to having a tight end with hands, big body, seems to know his way around the end zone, seems to know his way around routes. So I'm really excited about him. And then, we still got some stuff to do, post draft. I mean, we got to get on this edge rushers. I don't think we did anything there. We definitely need some depth at the cornerback position. And of course, offensive lineman or offensive lineman. I mean, we talk about that year in and year out. But overall, I give us a B. The only thing I do give us an A on, though, next season's picks. Dan Morgan, we have a pick in every round, and we double up in the 5th and the 7th. We've got 9 picks as of today.
And that was the thing that I think fans had to come to terms with, that everything that was being done during the draft wasn't for this particular draft.
Right.
It was looking out for the future, trying to get back a lot of capital that we lost throughout the last 2-3 seasons of trading away everything, for Sam Darnold. And I can appreciate what they were able to do, and I can appreciate where they were trying to go with some of the picks. Like I said, Xavier Legette, you talk about him, and he is a bit rawer of a prospect that you would like to have in the 1st round. But you talk about his athletic upside, along with the ability that he did show at South Carolina to be able to have nuance to his route running, to have the ability to be a threat over the top. There is a lot of things you can do with a guy like that, and obviously Dave Canales, being a former receivers coach, if I trust any coach to be able to take a receiver like that and mold him into a primetime player, I think Dave Canales would be the guy to do it. And I really trust what we can do with him and Mingo. My biggest hope is that Mingo hopefully comes along as well and can really help solidify that receiver room.
I completely agree. I think Legette, you hear it in his voice and you hear it in his, he knows how like much he pushed up the boards because of this last season and because of the coach coming in and changing their offensive scheme over there at South Carolina. He knows how much he thrived off of that. So I think that shows his ability to take coaching, to understand it, and plus when you look at, I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, but when you look at the skill set and the size and the athleticism of both Bryce Young and Spencer Rattler, they fall along the same kind of echelon. So Leggett knows how to jump up for those, 50-50 balls. That was his bread and butter all year long. That's why he was in the first round, because of his 50-50 catches. There were people that went to South Carolina that didn't know who Xavier Leggett was until he got some of those contested catches there, the Mayo Classic, the Georgia game. I mean, he really cemented himself throughout the year. So I think that's where he's going to provide, what we wanted from Mingo to be that red zone threat. I think Leggett's finally that guy that Bryce can chuck it up to and go, all right, it's either going to be Leggett getting the ball or nobody else. And he even said that verbatim. He said, I'm jumping up every ball to make sure I'm the only one who can catch it. If it's not me, it's not getting caught. So I like that a lot. I mean, we're going to need, closed captioning at every one of his press conferences. I mean, he's putting Mullen, South Carolina on the map. There's only been one other player drafted out of Mullen, South Carolina, and it was in 1954.
Sounds about right.
So he's definitely putting Mullins out. Everyone thinks that he's a super country. I'm like, no, that's just what they grow in Mullins.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, once you get down deep into them deep parts of South Carolina, that's how the dialect goes. I don't know if them boys understand that, but the further south you go in the state of South Carolina, the less you can understand, my boy.
And so there was.
No, go ahead, Jack.
I was gonna say there was a growing theme, especially within the first 4 picks of the draft that we made, outside of Chad Smith-Wade. Like the first 3 guys, in Jonathan Brooks, Xavier Leggett, and Trevin Wallace, were very blue collar, down to earth players in their interviews, and they were also all very excitable is not the right word, but they kind of matched Canalis's upbeat personality. It was interesting. They all kind of fell along in a line where Jonathan Brooks was very engaged in his press conference off the rip. Trevin Wallace was very outspoken in himself and very I am the best linebacker in this class. You're going to see something different when you come out of here. So they were all 3 of them very confident in themselves, very ready to get the ball rolling. And I think that matches Canalis's, his personality to a T. He seems that same kind of way where he's ready to hit the ground rolling. So that could be a pretty good thing for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking, throughout the draft, after I did some research on some of this after this, I think they all fit the mold of what they were looking for. I think what they set out to set as far as an attitude and a culture base, this is what they it's all coming to fruition. I mean, they told Xavier Leggett if he was there, they would take him. They did. They seem to be building up. I mean, when I read about Trevin Wallace, didn't know much about him. I mean, he did have 80 tackles last year. 10% of them were for sacks or for a loss. I think he had 6 sacks or something like that on the year. He reminds me, when you read about him, about a Thomas Davis, is what they're trying to compare him to as far as how he is. He's even said that he's got the swag, so we're going to see, what sort of attitude he brings to that group. We did lose, with Brian Burns leaving and the exit of Luvu, you lose that attitude. Shaq will still be there, but I think Shaq is really looking at some of these young players coming in to kind of carry the torch. It's going to be interesting to see how they all play off of each other with the new staff that we have in place. I mean, you got Clowney, that's new. You got Shaq coming back off an injury. And then you come in with Trevin. I think it's going to be real interesting to see what that defense looks like. I don't know much about Smith-Wade. And I'm also interested in this Crumedy pick. I mean, he seems to be a project. He had a lot of injuries. So I don't know what that pick was really about. I think we could have gone maybe offensive side of the ball there. So we'll see, though. But he's a big boy. He's 6'4", 300 plus. So he can plug the hole. And then you bring Barrett into it. I mean, he reminds me of a bulldozer type of a player, but he's just undersized in the position he plays. So he could be a Zach Taylor, right? He could be that type of player when it's all said and done. So we'll see. I think those last 3 were much more of a project pick. I thought we could have gone a little bit better directionally, in my opinion.
And, it's funny. The first thing I thought about with the last 3 picks were, I hope these guys can play special teams, because for Charles Smith-Wade, I don't think there's a first of all, we all hope these guys work out and can contribute in some capacity, but I don't think there's a world where we want to see Charles Smith-Wade get a whole lot of defensive reps for us this season. Like that, I don't think that's what we want. We want to go out and sign another veteran corner to play alongside J.C. Horn, bring along some of the guys that we had brought in last year. Like your hope is that like a guy like Jamie Robinson can start to get more reps at whether he'll be playing safety or in the nickel or however they so choose to use him. You want to see a guy like that kind of grow up a little bit more. Trevin Wallace, like you said, you had the Thomas Davis, kind of comp for him, and I completely understand that for a guy that plays a lot better down when he's playing downhill, not a guy that really engages well and sheds blocks necessarily the best. So that's where like for him this year, I don't really expect him to be a key contributor on the defense. You hope that with being in a linebacker room with a guy like Shaq Thompson and some of the other guys that they brought around, like with Josie Jewell as well, can he learn from those guys and can he then find his way onto the field? Because his ability to be able to cover out of the backfield is something that made him an intriguing prospect at that spot. You definitely understand that, but because of his ability to be able to play in the backfield, there's maybe a little bit more versatility there than maybe a Peyton Willis, who seems more like a traditional middle linebacker, more so your traditional linebacker. Maybe that's not the type of style that Evero wants, but I'm not going to sit here and lie. Like I'm not looking at Evero and saying like, hey, we got to start hitting on some of these defensive picks.
Yeah.
Because your last year was DJ Johnson. And you do have something to prove to me. I don't know if anybody else got anything. He got to prove something to me as far as guys that you take that you think we should be able to, spend capital on, and can you actually mold these guys into legitimate playmakers?
Oh, that's the thing, is that we gave him, the benefit of the doubt last year, and I think that's what influenced the multi-linebacker draft. Because if there was a year for him to go multiple linebackers in that late of the draft, it was not this year. I mean, to have your that's the guy from, I think it's Mississippi State, I think is where we got him from. I can't even remember the.
Crumity.
Was that him? I thought he was a defensive tackle.
Yeah, he's a
I'm talking
defensive
about
tackle.
the linebacker.
Defensive lineman.
Michael Barrett.
Oh, Michael Barrett. Sorry,
Michael
Michigan.
Barrett.
Michigan.
Michael Barrett from Michigan.
Michigan.
And Trevin Wallace. I don't know if this was the draft to do that in, but I think it kind of came from the fact of, you look at last year, I mean, DJ Johnson, I don't think he played a full game at all. I think he was injured almost the entire year. Then you look at what happens, with Frankie being out some part of the year, Shaq being gone all year. You bring your guys in and they get injured. We had a lot of injuries in that linebacker group last year. I mean, Marquise Haynes was never healthy fully. Brian Burns was never healthy fully. Even, Combo Grugier Hill was barely healthy, in the entire time. So I think that's what kind of influenced a little bit. And I don't think, that the two of them, I think Trevin Wallace is he can only, in my opinion, outshine my expectations, because for me they're not very high.
I don't have high ones either.
He is either going to be a great special teams player. I'm not saying he's the next Frankie. I'm looking, like you said, more like a Josie Jewell, a guy who knows Avero's system, a guy who knows and can plug and play. That's where I'm going to get it from, to see Kamu Grugier Hill step up. He was a good tandem with Frankie. Now can you take the lead, and then can we squeeze one last full year out of Shaq before? I mean, he's got to be on the other side of the hill, coming close to the bottom. The thing that I think Dan Morgan tripped up a little bit on this year is, I think, being that it was his first overall draft by himself, I think he got a little trigger happy in certain respects. You saw in the first round, before we traded up, and there at the end, it was Ricky Pearsall had gone, Xavier Worthy had gone, Brian Thomas had all gone, within the same 10 picks. And I think he saw that and said, all right, I got to jump up and get my wide receiver now, because the guy I want, especially, we don't even know if they like Keon Coleman. They said they talked to him, but
never really saw that relationship materialize. And usually by that time in the draft, in the process, you would know if a team really wasn't in love with the prospect.
And Xavier get new, so that was coming off. And then you see Lad McConkey was the next one off the board. Jalen Polk was off a little bit, so he knew wide receivers were going. So, but then though, trading back, I think it was to 52 originally. We had traded back to 52, which I thought was a giant gap. I was like, that's a long time to go from 39 to 52. But like we said, it got your second rounder back for next year, which is huge. That is going to play a huge part. Because not having that second round pick does hurt you. Not having a first hurts, but we talk about the amount of guys you can get in the second round, depending on how deep the draft is. What I did not agree with was trading back up to 46. Because you lost the picks that you had you traded both, because you had 2 5th-round picks. That 141, 142, which was all right, you're getting a nice 2-for-1. You lost that, and you lost I think it was a second, 7th round or anything. You didn't gain anything from it other than jumping back up to 46 to give it to the Colts. When he did it, what I thought was happening, because after that, 40 was Cooper DeJean, 41 was Khalid McKinstry, 42 was Kamari Lassiter, 43 was Max Melton.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, he's getting worried about cornerbacks. He's going to jump up and take a cornerback. You still had Mike Sainber still at that point. You know, that was probably the last cornerback you could have taken that would have made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or I thought he might have gone, you know, an offensive tackle. But what I did not like is that you trade away from 39 down to 52. You got that second round pick, sure, but it's going to look really bad if we come back to this draft. We've talked about how notoriously rough our second rounds have been in years past. Getting these guys, you know, getting guys like Terrace Marshall, and then you see how many people fall off the board. Getting Yetur Gross-Matos when Jalen Hurts and, you know, Micah Parsons are still on the board. So if we come back and look at from 39, they used that pick, the Rams, to get Braden Fisk. Next was Cooper DeJean, then Kool-Aid McKinstry, then Kamari Lassiter. 44 was Jackson Powers Johnson, and 45 was Edgerrin Cooper. So if you know, your center position doesn't work out this year, or God forbid, like you got Trevin Wallace and Edgerrin Cooper comes up to be the next freaking, you know, I mean, he comes up to be the next, like, just really power Roquan Smith, you know, kind of guy, that's going to look really bad.
It will look bad considering
I think
even it.
No, I was just gonna say. I think for me, that was strategic into getting the picks for next year. I don't think that was anything other than trying to fill out what was going to happen next year. I heard a podcast the other day, and they were talking about what Dan Morgan had said early on when he got the coach. And I wasn't privy to a lot of it, but he had said something to the point of he's not building for this year; he's definitely building for the future, right? And so when you look at it from that perspective and the aging of our team. If you look at next year, if we're going to have 9 picks going into next year, right? This year we do decent. Next year we come in. We've got to pick every freaking round with double picks in the 5th and the 7th. Not only do you have room to barter and trade, but conceivably the way the draft is probably going to fall next year, we can probably rebuild our whole defense next year, if not even our offensive line. So looking at it, I'm like, I see why he did what he did. I do agree with you, though, Jack, on one thing. I didn't like the juggernaut positioning he was doing so frequently and trading back so much in the draft. I think we could have capitalized on some of those players you're mentioning. I don't disagree with you, but in thinking and looking at the way Dan Morgan was thinking about it, he's living true to what he stated earlier on when he took on the position.
And I completely agree. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. The thing that gives me pause is, like, we talked about it, you know, we talked about it with the JC, Terrace Marshall, Brady Christensen.
Mm-hmm.
You were in desperate need of a cornerback and desperate need of an offensive lineman. We knew that going into it. You needed a tackle. To take a guy like Terrace Marshall in that second round that really didn't make sense to any of us, to then get a guy like Brady Christensen who was coming off an ACL tear that year. And we were like, look, we need, like, immediate offensive line flip. And Brady Christensen has not been fully healthy since we've gotten him any year.
Right.
And so who knows if him moving to backup, you know, and we were drafting him to be at least a backup for a few years and then starter.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're going to sit him at a backup behind Corbett to be the backup center. So what irks me a little bit is that you go for these guys, you know they're injured. I don't necessarily disagree with trading back to 40 to 52 and then trading up to 46. Mm-hmm. But then to get a guy like Brooks, who had a huge breakout year and was playing behind an insane running back room at Texas with Bijan Robinson and, there's another one. The one right before him.
I know you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
But to have him coming off of a full tear in November, it's not like it was an early, you know, season tear.
Now, to be fair, because it was a clean tear, the recovery process is a lot smoother than it would be if he tore the ACL and maybe something else. Like, this was a clean tear, just
I
the
agree with
ACL. They're having him. He's supposed to be back by July. So,
I mean, and you got to look at the staff.
I would believe.
And you got to look at the staff. And you got to look at the staff he had taking care of him. He was at Texas getting treated by the Cowboys training staff. So it's not like he was getting done by our medical staff, right?
But now he's coming to our training staff.
Exactly. Exactly.
So now he's coming to our training staff, which probably wouldn't be able to.
But I'm hoping we've done some work there.
That's like the most. You don't, obviously, you don't advertise those kind of moves. You don't put out a press release for a changing medical staff.
But
I would hope.
I need that press release.
I'm telling you, in the business, it's not gonna happen. We're not gonna get it unless they like. I mean, the last headline we'd ever heard about if the medical staff was when the old buddy in Washington was getting raided by the FBI.
Yeah, what called a RICO case.
Who was our head of our training staff before he was at Washington.
It makes sense because look at what he was doing to our players.
That's what I'm saying. So you bring in a guy because let's not get it twisted. Xavier Legette, he's not a gamble, but as far as this wide receiver class, I think he might have had
it made sense at where we were having to be. He made sense right there.
But I think he also has more questions associated with him than a good 70% of the wide receiver class.
He does.
Outside of Brendan Rice, which God Almighty, or like a Ricky Pearsall. They were more questioned, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But Adonai Mitchell and Brendan Rice, they freaking.
I think a lot of. Hey, look, there are things that happens throughout the process that people just either we're not privy to. But you kind of notice with Adonai Mitchell that somewhere in between, the buzz stopped. Immediately after the draft, not the draft, but sorry, the combine.
Yeah.
Is immediately after the combine, and everybody thought, because of the 40 he ran, because of how his film looked, okay. The issue was that his film and the 40 didn't match, because he didn't play nearly as fast.
No.
And then whatever got leaked out during the process, I don't know what it was, but good God.
Yeah, I mean that. Brendan Rice, we knew was going to be a little bit lower down there. We didn't know,
I think he would be.
As far as, he doesn't matter who his dad is. It's not going to give him enough to.
Right, you can't play, you can't play.
No, and so that we were seeing coming. But, so that's what concerns me a little bit. You took gambles, more or less, on your first two selections.
Yeah. But let me just shoot Jonathan Brooks some bells. You look at production in the 1 year that he did have. You look at the fact that he doesn't have a whole lot of wear and tear in terms of just a sheer amount of carries. And you look at the fact that he's coming into a running back room with Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders where he isn't going to be the feature guy.
No.
There's going to be a process of bringing him along where even with him coming off of that injury, he still isn't going to be asked to be any type of contributor probably until late into the season.
But that's what irks me a little bit. We talked about the 33 and 39. I hope that Dan didn't think, all right, I got into the first round. I have a first round. No, you moved one spot. You didn't do that. That did not push the meter at all. So 39 still in the. I mean, we were 2 and 14. Second rounder still needs to be someone that's making an immediate impact at least some way through the year. And so the running back room, for me, Zach Frazier was still on the board. Ben Sinnott was still on the board. Yeah. These are positions we need immediate help in. I was more confident in the running back room than I was the tight end room or the center room right now. I'm not confident because I think Miles Sanders is going to come out like a new running back, but Chuba Hubbard can at least keep the ball rolling.
And this is where I think that Dave Canales ended up having the final say in that room, because you start looking at the guys that he worked with last year, Rashad White being one of those guys.
That's true.
Look at Jonathan Brooks. Look at what they do. Their game is very similar. They catch the ball well out of the backfield.
Seattle had it as well when he was there the year before. Yeah. They had a pretty dynamic running back room that was a multi-horse.
Exactly, and I think Brooks is probably a better runner in between the tackles than Rashad White is, current day. And then I started looking at, we haven't had a running back room like this in a while. It was only just Christian McCaffrey, and we didn't really use anybody else or utilize anything else. Brooks is going to be running back one in the next. If I'm being honest, he'll probably be running back one by year 3 probably.
I'd give him year 2.
Year 2, depending on what happens with Chuba.
Yeah.
I think that's why I think that kind of depends. But I would love a running back room with him and Chuba Hubbard being my 1-2 punch.
I disagree though. I disagree. I think Jonathan Brooks is going to come in, and I'm giving him the week 9.
I don't want him to be up that quick.
Listen, you might not want him to be. Well, hold on.
That's where I feel too, though.
Hold on. What I'm saying is, if Miles Sanders performs the way he did last year, and my boy Jonathan Brooks got a chip on his shoulder, and he's coming in and he's running well, you're going to tell me that Dan Canales is not going to use him over Miles Sanders, and then Miles Sanders is going to have to start looking for a new job. So I'm saying,
immediately,
if by week 9 this year, I'm giving Jonathan Brooks 30 to 40% of the carries.
Hey, look, I'm with it. I mean,
I am too.
I
Yeah,
bet
'cause
you a
I-
beer.
like-
I
like
bet
I
you. I
said,
bet you
you know.
both a beer. I bet you both a beer. That he by week
Hey, look,
9,
I'm
week
with
10,
it.
he's 30, 40% of the carries.
Right. Like I said, I'm
And the
in
only reason
love
I
with the
say
idea
that-
of a Chuba Hubbard Brooks back.
Yeah, I am too. The only reason I say that is the last running back I can think of who had an injury like him that late in the season that came in and made an impact. It's a nice name, Willis McGahee. Tore his ACL in the championship game, right? Got drafted,
Yeah, he did.
came in for the Bills, and balled out. Did he not?
He absolutely did. And here's the thing we got to keep in perspective too. If not for the injury, he's not even there.
Oh, that's
Oh yeah, he's not there.
absolutely.
No
You know
questions.
what I'm saying?
No
so,
questions.
yeah,
No
so while I
No
do
questions.
understand, like I completely agree. I loved Edgerrin Cooper. I wanted Jackson Powers Johnson was also a guy that we all loved. Frazier as well. We all understand that we like those guys, but remember that the player that we did end up getting isn't a guy that would have typically been there for us had everything
Right.
been normal. So we gotta,
Right.
it's a give and take. It's a give and
I
take. with
completely
that.
agree. And I think Morgan also did it a little bit because I think that he also knows that it will be like, and it's funny that, JB said it that close to the trade deadline where like if Miles is underperforming and JB, we'll have a new JB now. We got a JB on the team and a JB in the podcast. If Jonathan Brooks is balling out and Chuba's, I mean, yeah, you're gone. But the thing with that though is, and we talked about this when we made the original contract, it's gonna be a bitch to get someone to pick up that contract. He's on year 2 of
Not
4
unless
for that.
Not unless though, but not unless somebody gets injured. Like I hate to say it, I don't want anybody to get injured, but let's just say sake of
Knock on
argument,
wood, right?
Bijan goes down.
That
right?
would be just a
Saquon
shame.
goes
That
down.
would be awful.
Miles goes back. You know what I'm saying? Like things happen in the season. Like that's what we have to understand
Oh my
too.
God,
Like,
I forgot
the season
Barkley was on
dictates
the
how
Eagles.
teams perform. Right? The season dictates
Yeah.
that. It's almost like anything else
Yeah.
that they do. So if for some reason the Chiefs, for some odd reason, their lead running back goes down, I don't even know who their running back is right now. But let's just say he goes
Checo.
down. Miles Sanders is intriguing for them. Miles Sanders is intriguing for them, right? Like he can catch out of the
Yeah, no,
backfield.
you're
He can
right.
be a decoy for Kelsey. Like he can do all those
Mhm.
things. So that's going to dictate that. I think what we need to be thankful for is, and I agree with you, Shantice, our running back room probably hasn't looked this good since D. Will and Jay Stu. Like
That's
there's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm thinking.
there are legitimate running backs in that room who can make your life a problem on Sunday, and you got to
Mhm.
prepare for
Like
both of them.
My
You know what I
ideal
mean?
thing is my ideal situation is having Chuba be your 1 and 2 back, and then JB comes in as your third down back.
Bro, yeah, he's a multifaceted type of player. You can use
Yeah,
him
he
in
is.
different situations. It's a lot of
He's
things you can
big,
do
too.
with him, and he is
He's a
he
thick-
is,
he's a
he
thick
is
one.
big.
He is
That's what I'm
big.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
He's bigger than Bryce. I mean, we say that, and it's not a huge line to cross, but he's bigger. He's gonna tower over Bryce Young. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna be bigger.
But that's the other
Everybody
thing,
is.
Jack. So Jack, go back to your original point too. Why did we go running back there? Canales and Morgan both know to lessen the hits and to lessen the zoning in on Bryce, you got to have a monster backfield. And in order to do that, they had to go get one that's going to come in and make a splash, right? Like we're not looking for. I'm trying to think outside of CMC. We're not look. I hate to say it, but we're not looking for another Black Sheep, right? We're looking for a legitimate back to come in here and really grease those wheels. We thought Miles Sanders was going to be that back, right? We learned last year he ain't that back, and it's okay. We overspent on an Escalade. It was in 2002 instead of 24. That's all it was. So now we got to go back and we got to reconfigure. So now we went out and got us a little Tesla. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's coming back. We got it from CarMax. We didn't buy it from Tesla. We got it from CarMax, and it's okay. We're gonna see how he
He's
rides.
also
But I got a
20
feeling
years
Jonathan
old.
Brooks is going to
Yeah,
surprise.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you,
man,
like
that's a big
the you look at the guys with the amount of upside, the age,
Yep.
all of the things. I
Yep.
said, I understand what they were going for. We got to just hang tight and see the vision for some of these guys.
Right.
But I mean, there's another Texas guy.
Look, I'll tell you who's going to be taking
Yo,
over
that
by week
tight end,
9. By week
I'm
5.
telling you now.
By week 5.
Hey,
By week 5, he'll be the
tight end's
starting
week
tight
2.
end.
Tight end is week 2.
oh, he gonna be there
Tight
quick.
end is week 2.
It's
Tight end is
preseason.
week
He's
By
two.
the
gonna
end
be
of camp,
That's right,
by the
week
end of
2.
camp, it'll be over with. Yeah.
that was where.
But think
like,
about this though. We can do a 2 tight end set now. We can do a 2 tight end set now.
It's crazy.
You can
'cause
do
the first
Trimble
thing-
on one
'cause in my-
side,
'cause
and you can do that. You can do a man on the other,
look,
Sanders on the other.
JB, in my notes, I literally got like the first thing we can do 2 tight end sets. The tight end screens make sense this
It
year.
finally actually makes sense. And watch, this is going to be the year we don't call a damn tight end screen. I kid you not. Because we're going to be so, all right, we're done with the tight end screens. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. We're going to be like, all right, we can't do it no more. But no, that was the thing I think that really made it turned the draft back over to go with Sanders and then Chow Smith-Wade back to back. For me, I was like, all right, I'm feeling better about it. Those 2 picks back to back really cemented it as that kind of B grade for it, maybe even B+. Because, I mean, around there, all that was left was, Cade was off the board, Ben Sinnott was off the board. You had Jaheim Bell, that was about it.
Yeah.
But Jatavion Sanders, watching his film, my God.
Vertical threading speed. Immediately best pass catcher in the tight end room.
Exactly, without question.
Yeah, and it makes me now. I like Tommy Tremble more than Ian Thomas. I think we all like Tommy Tremble more than Ian Thomas. But I like now the aspect of Tommy Tremble's athletic ability now being able to be on the field because there is a true pass catcher at tight end.
We're getting what we thought Ian Thomas was supposed to be. What we were advertised that Ian Thomas was going to be coming from an actual power program.
Yeah, I'm thinking too, though, right? The 2 tight end sets are going to be gorgeous, but I'm really thinking about how Ian Thomas now, him blocking on that side, helping out Icky, and then if you've got Chuba coming around that side, or even my man Jonathan Brooks, or even if you roll up my man Sanders on a tight end on a tight end around in the red zone, like it's going to be problems, man, if they're going to do this like I think they are. I mean, even with the linemen we've got, even though I'm kind of jealous at the 6'8" Oregon guy that went to the Chargers. Like, I was kind of jealous at
JPJ. That was
I was kind of jealous. Even the guy that the Cowboys got, the 6'6" guy that they got, is kind of jealous. But we got some hogs up there now too, and I'm okay with that a little bit. But I really do think the pickup of Sanders legitimizes what we've been talking about for the last 2 years. Agree with about the Ian Thomas piece. And I also agree with the Tremble piece. I think Tremble was underutilized because we were so used to Ian Thomas. And then once we started flip-flopping coaches and they couldn't decide what to do, now we got two legitimate ends. We haven't had 2 legitimate ends. Olsen and Shockey? Like, I don't even know. Like, when was that? Like,
I'm tripping. Ed Dixon.
Yeah,
Greg Olsen.
don't do Ed Dixon like that. Come on now. Ed Dixon and Greg Olsen.
Okay.
Dixon, Greg Olsen. Yeah, I give him that.
I will say though, I think that, and you talked about it there in terms of like, how we have him pull. I could even see, like, for me, Ian Thomas at this point, what we always thought of him, hell, get some burgers in you, get your weight up, put you down in the 3 technique. You're our fullback now. Just go run and block for people because we're gonna need, if our center position is this concerning with the health issues and just you're gonna need a fullback in there.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm fine if that's hell, even if that's Jatavion Sanders, Jatavion Sanders, or if it's Jonathan Brooks or it's Ian Thomas, just running some halfback, some halfback formations. I'm okay with that. I would love for Dan Morgan. He's lived in and watched the fullback position in its prime, and I think that he could be able to facilitate him and Canales. Go, all right, Ian Thomas, put you back there, or even Jonathan Brooks. He's 6 foot 216. He's incredibly reminiscent of the last running back that Chuba paired incredibly well with, and that's Donta Foreman. Donta Foreman was 6 foot 236. He only needs to gain 20 pounds in the offseason. That's a lot of weight. But I could see them. I mean, that we've seen the vision with Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard back like side by side. We've seen it work. We saw what it did well, to the point where we didn't even think we needed another running back coming out of that season.
Yeah.
And it was, that was what made Miles Sanders' pick so shocking. But I think that, like, if you have, and it's Jonathan with an O, we'll have to remember that.
Yes.
It's not an A at the end of it. But if you have him come up and be what he's supposed to be and play and keep him healthy, get his legs right, get his head right, I think it's gonna be fantastic. And it's literally with every other pick we've gotten, I think. Now you go a little bit farther. We said the I can't remember his name, Crumpler.
Crumedy.
I keep thinking of Algie Crumpler, and I know that's just not correct. Crumedy is interesting. That was another spot. Like, once we got that far down in the draft, I was like, all right, like, the defensive tackle, we like we've gotten this rotating room of, however many Williams we've had on the team in the last year and a half, Raekwon, Deshaun, Ashawn, like we bring in Ashawn Robinson. We had, Deshaun Williams, and we had I can't think of his name now. I just Raekwon Williams. And then we also saw we had, the defensive lineman that came in towards the end there and that was doing pretty well, whose name is escaping me at the moment.
I'll be honest with you, but I don't.
We had a rotate, like that's what, like we got a rotating room of defensive tackles. Like we haven't gotten a guy that's gonna pair still well with Derek Brown. I don't think. Like
Yeah, he still don't have him.
and you could have.
I don't think you're gonna get him until. I don't think you're gonna get him until after. I don't think you'll get him until camps break start opening up and they start rotating people off the rosters. I think Crumity is somebody you can spend the capital on right now because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And to be quite honest with you, why
Right.
not get somebody young and see what they can become? It's essentially what we did with Greg Hardy. You know what I mean? That is that kind of pick. I mean, he's a project.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm not expecting anything out of Crumity. I mean, if you get something out of him, of course, but like we took him in like the 6th round.
Yeah, we took him in
Yeah,
the 6th. The
six.
6th and 7th picks are. I mean,
Your hope is that he can be a reserve. That's like that's your hope. He's not he's not going to be the guy that goes alongside Derek Brown for consistently down in, down out. These are things that we're going to probably have to address next season.
yeah.
And having Ashawn Robinson, and he's not going to be a starter because Ashawn Robinson is going to be the guy playing alongside Derek Brown for the majority
Yeah,
of the year.
and I think
too.
he's going to pair really well.
Yeah.
I just
Yep.
could. I'm still having trouble grasping I would not have thought coming into that draft and then leaving it. We would have left without getting anybody for the offensive line. I know we went incredibly hard in free agency. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. Those are two of the, I think, knock on wood, best free agency pickups we've had. And that ain't and nothing to them. That's no Bradley Bozeman and Austin Corbett. Like that is.
And I think the mentality with the offensive line is also this too, is like getting Christensen back, who is a guy that has versatility along the line. He's played tackle, he's played guard. Austin Corbett, who's played center and also played guard. I think having those guys there, I think that may have lessened the blow in terms of what they thought they had to spend on the offensive line during the draft. Again, I understand because I wanted a true center, and I really wanted a guy that we drafted to be able to be the starter for our team, or at least compete for that starting job, and have the flexibility with Corbett to be able to move him along the line wherever we need him. But I think maybe in this system, he's only gonna truly fit at center, and he maybe can play guard if we necessarily have to. But I'm gonna have to trust the coaches on that one because again, I think that's a concern that I think we all have right now.
And I don't know if it was just a brutal contract because I still don't. I still have yet to understand the mindset around cutting Bradley Bozeman in my mind, especially now. Like, and then doing, he was one of the only fully consistently healthy linemen all year outside of Moten and Icky, and he was your true center was a stretch, but you could at least, because now like you put your two guys that haven't played full seasons for you.
Right,
At
you're
the center
putting
position.
them in they're next up. They actually gotta play. We need them to play.
And if one of them goes down and then Christensen goes down the next week, you're right back to where we started.
Bozeman was a release
Well, that's the whole
because
point.
of
Well, that's the whole
style
point.
fit.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point I was making with the linemen that I saw at the end. We got a bunch of those, what is it, the undrafted free agents or whatever.
Yeah, we did
and
get
a couple of them were linemen, right? So we did get like 2 or 3, I think, linemen from that regard. I think what you guys were hitting on is what I've been saying for a while too. Is when's the last time we drafted a blue chip lineman? Right, like it's been a long time since we've actually stuck our neck out on a line.
Jordan
that-
Gross. I mean,
Yeah, like Jordan Gross, right? I don't think we've done that in quite some time. So my
Will,
point
yeah.
was when we were in the text chat.
Taylor Moten would be the
We were in
last.
the
oh
text.
yeah, wait, we're dumb. Sorry, Taylor Moten.
Taylor Moten would be the last blue chip.
But still, I mean, what I'm saying though
I mean,
is
we
like
drafted-
overall,
Yeah,
though, is what I'm saying is we don't do that normally, and we had a chance to
Right.
get when I put the text chat around. That Bryce Frazier connection could have gone so much further, I think, longevity wise, because then you have your Jeff Saturday, Peyton Manning kind of pairing at a very young age to then have them grow together as a unit. Because that 1-2 right there, as far as communication on the line, is so critical. And especially for somebody like Bryce who had such a tumultuous first year. Now, coming in with a rookie center and doing that all over again, that would have been something tough. But I think Frazier would have come in and given him something better. That's just me. That's just what I was leaning towards. But I'm not mad at Jonathan Brooks. Don't get me wrong. I'm not mad at Jonathan
No,
Brooks.
I'm not either.
So-
I thought that Dan Morgan, like, he spent that time in Seattle. What was the Seahawks' biggest issue year in and year out that really stunted their performance was their crappy offensive line. Then you go to Buffalo. It doesn't get much better offensive line-wise in Buffalo. So you would have thought third time around he would have gone, okay, offensive line is something we need to prioritize. And maybe he was, like coming in the icky year, like, okay, hey, like we shot on a guy early and it didn't pan out, but like you can't let the first fall through, because this is what, like, our starting line: Icky, Damian Lewis, Corbs, Robert Hunt, Taylor Moton. That is a hog farm right there. That's your dogs you want. What keeps me up at night is your second line of defense, which is, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Yash Nijman, Nash Jensen, Brady Christensen, Chandler Savala, and Cade Mays. And that is what.
Look, bro, you're right. I'm not. Look, here's the thing. We all agree, but it's
Right.
done.
I don't care, all right?
Exactly.
If I say
That's
it
all we
enough, I
do.
can stop it. I can fly around the world,
That's all we
reverse
can
it, and
do.
get him to get at least one offensive tackle.
You feel me? I agree. Like, we all want.
Well, this is what we can say, though. This is what we can say.
You know.
Next year, we can get any lineman we want to get. We got 9 picks. We got 9 picks next
Right.
year, so we can revisit this
Right.
next year. We got 9 picks to work with next year, so I'm not. I
If
got to
they're gonna
give
be
it to
pick
Dan Morgan, like I
32,
said.
They're going to be pick 32, pick 60,
Hey, listen.
68,
We may be able to trade up. We may be able to trade up. You don't know.
God,
Somebody
can you
may want to
imagine?
trade back next year.
Look, I will say, for this draft, this was going to be a hard draft to satisfy everybody.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because, we knew what we were up against. We knew the uphill battle we were climbing at this point. So that being the case, they did what they liked, and that's all I can really
Right.
say. I don't necessarily love anything. I love the guys that I love. I mean, obviously Leggett, Brooks, Sanders are the guys that I'm like, yes, I'm sold on those 3 guys.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I gotta see. I'll see what Charles Smith Wade can be. I'll see if Crumedy can break the rotation, and Michael Barrett, if he can contribute in some capacity, I'll be very much grateful for that as well. For the majority, I'm just gonna have to just wait and see what the vision is for Dave Canales. But I am excited about the offense, though, in terms of the overhaul, the receiver room. It's definitely a different look for this team. I just expect us to be more explosive, and more high powered on offense. High powered in the sense of just better than last year.
Yeah.
For me, like,
For
I'm not,
me. For
We
me.
can't average 13. We averaged 13.6 points a game last year.
It's gonna be more than
you
that.
just can't do that.
It's gonna be more than that.
I mean, that's
But I think
that's
for
got to
me,
be your.
I think for me, I'm gonna go along. My last thing on the draft really is around 2 things. What you just said is one of them. Shantice, is I'm looking forward to seeing the offensive side of the ball, us being much more competitive on Sundays. I think that's the one thing I'm looking forward to. And the other thing that I have faith in and I can feel good about again is the GM and the coach set forth a vision, and what they said in the beginning and how they carried it forward throughout this process, it all came to fruition in what they said they were going to do. They gave Bryce protection. They got Bryce weapons. They got younger. They shed some of the old BS that we had. Some of it we didn't want to go, but hey, it was part of the reason why we had to do this in order to turn the page. So for me, I have much more faith in the fact that what they say is what they do. Their words were followed by the actions. And so the actions are now showing proof in what they put forth. Now let's see what happens on the field. And I think we're going to see a very different product than what we've seen in the last 3 to 4 years. So I'm excited. Like I told y'all on the text, I'm about to pull my jerseys out. I'm about to dust them off. It's been a while since I've been able to wear them, freshly polished out of the cleaners. I'm gonna get them all pristine for this season because I think I'm gonna have some more pride in my voice when I start talking about my Panthers again. So that's the one thing I'm really, really happy about with this draft.
Me too. It'll be a nice change of pace.
Absolutely.
Training camp's coming up a lot quicker this time. They pushed it up a little bit, so we're gonna have it right down. And of course, now it's right down the road for Charlotte fans.
Yeah.
So it sucks for South Carolina, but it'll be right down the road. Before we jump off, wanted to take a few seconds. It's been an incredibly difficult week here in Charlotte. The last few days with the situation that cost 4 law enforcement officials their lives. It's something you never want to see happen. You think won't ever happen in your city. And, it was an isolated incident, thank God. But just want to give a moment to send our thoughts and prayers to the families of the 4 law enforcement officials and, of course, the 1 CMPD officer that lost their lives earlier this week.
Sure.
And I'll edit in some just sound here. Yeah, guys, that's it. Thanks for coming back, for waiting it out for us to bring back, the podcast for the newest season. 8, 9, I don't know. I don't remember which season it is. We're gonna stop. We're gonna stop putting numbers on them probably at this point. Like it's too much. But thanks for sticking around. Like I said, come check out the new location.
Yeah,
All of this that you see on the screen is from Locker Room Charlotte. You don't want to miss it. It's got everything you need before the season gets started and just for sports in general. So until then, until next time, keep pounding.